Hey my dears, first of all, click the like button so you don't forget, okay? This helps me a lot, thank you. Hanoka was a lonely, unattractive, and insignificant person who sacrificed countless lives and nations for the awakening of the witch deity Aura, even reversing time to resurrect his lost love. Despite his efforts, his classmates ignored him completely. One day, when he dropped his eraser, the most beautiful girl at school returned it to him. However, her fan club attacked him after class, beating him to the ground and threatening him never to look at their princess again. Even when he tried to help his teacher, one of the girls attempted to kill him but pretended to be helping when Ayaka arrived. As a result, Hanoka's miserable life continued with ongoing abuse from his peers. Then, one day, while throwing out the trash, he saw a mysterious rabbit ear in the garbage. When he picked it up, the note said the weather was clear with a chance of buildings falling. When he looked up, he saw the clock tower collapsing directly onto him. Never, in his entire life, had he managed to hold a girl's hand, but after the tower crushed him, he woke up in Ayaka's arms, seeing that they were flying above the tower's destruction. At the same time, the girl who had tried to kill him snapped her fingers to summon 2 rabbit knights. Ayaka threw Hanoka away, dodging the swords while enveloping them in flames. Just before Hana's miserable life ended, she cushioned his fall with her enormous breasts. Even so, the rabbits emerged from the flames, and she dodged both attacks, using her broom to push them away before unleashing hell to burn them. But when they jumped back, she launched a fire explosion to push them away again. However, the rabbits kept advancing, so Ayaka tried to activate her flaming landmines, but as they used their agility to keep coming, she teleported to burn one of them to ashes. At the same time, a cat girl tried to lure Hanoka to follow her, and as always, he chased after her into an alley. At this moment, Ayaka began to activate her S-rank fire spell, burning the rabbits to ashes, but realized Hanoka had disappeared. Before her eyes, an army of rabbits had trapped him, and their leader lowered his head to execute the worthless loser. None of this seemed real, so as Hanoka began to wonder if he was dreaming, all the rabbits were set on fire. After picking him up, Ayaka warned him to stay closer to her, but he thought she was beautiful even in his dreams, as she would never save him when he was awake. But she revealed that her mission was to protect her princess. Hanoka wondered if he heard her correctly, but before he could check if his document had been burned, he saw one of the robots running towards her. Trying to prove he was indeed a man with virile power, he moved to protect her. He needed some milk while Ayaka tried to ensure he was okay. Hanoka realized that size mattered after all, so Ayaka smothered him with her enormous breasts, apologizing for not having burned them to ashes yet. As the rabbits rose again, she began to awaken her inner demon, Blaze, commanding her millions of clovers to incinerate them. These devastating flames earned her the title of Fire Witch. Hey my dears, have you ever wanted to draw your own anime character, or even become a professional artist? Dude, check this out. Anime Art Academy brings together professional artists from Japan. You can actually learn from real mangakas. And you know the best part? You can start for free to get a taste of the journey. Check out the art from one of the professors. Hot, right? The link is in the description, okay? But when Hanoka woke from his coma elsewhere, Ayaka revealed that he was in her private room. While he wondered if he was dreaming, she told him he wasn't and revealed that she had been secretly protecting him all along. As they headed home, she promised to always be by his side from now on and walked next to him without saying another word for the rest of the day. The next morning, while the loser thought he was back to his worthless life, Ayaka approached him on the bus, asking to sit next to him. And as she stayed by his side, all the girls wished he would end his miserable life, and the look from all his classmates made him sick. When he tried to go to the bathroom, Ayaka's fan club kicked his worthless body, threatening to kill him if he continued to be by her side. However, Ayaka appeared at that moment, ordering them to let Hanoka go before adjusting her collar and saying she would burn anyone who hurt him again. But their anger didn't end at lunch, And when they began shouting for the princess to stay away from the ugly loser who smelled like an anime convention, Ayaka shoved her sausage in his mouth. However, he was tired of everyone planning his murder, so as he fled, he wondered when this miserable day would end. Then he saw the restored courtyard where the tower had fallen. At that moment, the cat girl appeared, saying that everything was an illusion magic. She had been testing him to ensure he was harmless, and after coming close to his face, she revealed her wings, introducing herself as Kuraishi. But before she could take him, Ayaka's flames burned her. However, Kuraishi summoned her robotic army, revealing she wouldn't lose this time, as her army was 10 times larger. All the knights began to advance, along with the lancers, so Ayaka laid Hanoka's body on the ground before everyone rushed to explode on top of her. Shortly after, Hanoka began to regain consciousness, seeing Ayaka's body completely torn apart, and screamed at her for sacrificing herself for him. Hearing his words, she wondered why he would be angry when he was safe. But Hanoka realized he hadn't been listening to her all this time and that it was the reason she got hurt. Because of this, he realized he should believe in her no matter what happened. But as he began to shout for an ambulance, she told him she was made of fire, asking him to close his eyes if he really believed in her. As he did so, Ayaka's flames began to envelop his body, and while all the rabbits struggled to jump, a massive explosion pushed them away, with Ayaka appearing in her second form. None of the robots could withstand the heat, and as Ayaka commanded them to burn until nothing remained, Hirashi managed to escape. After she was gone, Hanoka opened his eyes again, realizing Ayaka was back in her normal uniform. As they walked back home, he apologized for not shoving his sausage deeper into her throat, but they continued walking in silence once more. The next day, the teacher announced that there would be 5 new transfer students in their class: Tempopo Kuraishi, Rin Kazari, Kanna Atsuji, Mei Manawa, and Kotetsu Katsura. Hanoka wondered how so many of them had appeared, and Ayaka told him they were exactly what he thought they were. The following day, as he started heading to school, he realized Ayaka was not on the bus with him and began to worry that she might have been attacked by them. However, when he arrived in the classroom, he saw that she had already captured the rival witches and was about to burn them alive, revealing that it was a witch hunt because she believed the best way to keep him safe was to eliminate their enemies. When Kuraishi began to speak, Hanoka asked Ayaka to remove her gag, hoping to understand why they were trying to capture him. Once the gag was removed, Kuraishi began to say she only wanted to be his friend, but even Hanoka's dull brain wasn't fooled by her lies. Trying to act brave, he decided to ask why they wanted to capture him, but Kuraishi regarded his question as worthless as his face. However, she chose to reveal that they actually wanted his body, especially the white liquid inside him. Hearing this, Hanoka began to panic because he was still a hopeless virgin who never thought he'd be defiled. At that moment, dark ink started dripping from the ceiling, and when Mei appeared above them, she immediately captured Hanoka. She was the last of the group, and as she conjured a wall in front of Ayaka, she freed the other girls and vanished into the floor. Feeling secure, Mei thought her plan had worked perfectly, having already paralyzed Hanoka with a spell. However, while she was still celebrating her success, flames began pouring from the ceiling, and she realized Ayaka had neutralized her poison after already burning the other witches. As Ayaka started to approach, Mei threatened to kill Hanoka with her witch wolf, but Ayaka did not back down, threatening to burn her to nothing. In desperation, Mei's wolf bit Hanoka's neck, but his body exploded in flames, rolling away. Mei then realized the bite mark had transferred to Ayaka's body, but it disappeared before she could be burned. Later that day, after Hanoka woke up, he noticed his wound had healed, but saw Ayaka wearing a scarf around her neck. It was to cover the wound, but she told him she was just trying to keep warm due to the weather. She explained that he would never be safe with witches lurking and suggested they would be better off eliminating the superior witches behind the attacks. Realizing she was putting herself in danger for him, Hanoka begged to become her apprentice and asked her to reveal the truth behind the attacks, but she thought it was too early to reveal the secret of the god inside him. The next day, when they met on the street to spend the weekend together, Hanoka noticed that her breasts were indeed enormous. As they walked through an alley, Ayaka decided to reveal that she worked for a guild to protect him from the witches of the tower, an evil coven whose sole desire was to create chaos in the world. Their only goal was to awaken the Demon King and turn the entire world into a disaster if they managed to obtain the white thing inside him. When they reached a store, Hanoka helped Ayaka carry her bags as a worthless servant, but when he noticed a girl crying, he tried to help her find her family. However, it was just another trap by a new witch who recognized him as the same person from her wanted poster. She pushed the girl aside, but when Ayaka arrived, she drew her blade and immediately took her down. At the same time, two other witches appeared, but when Hanoka told them that Ayaka was from the guild, they revealed their true forms. However, Ayaka was unfazed by their presence and unleashed a massive flame around them before throwing them against the ceiling. As Hanoka escaped with the help of the distraction, he saved the girl from being impaled. When Ayaka decided to protect them, the witch started shooting at her, but Ayaka shielded herself with her cloak. When she ran out of bullets, she tried to use her blade, but it was already overheated from Hanoka's flames. At that moment, she dropped all the bullets and exploded the useless girls in the most convenient position. Realizing they had no chance against Ayaka, the witch shot a rope to the roof and managed to escape with the remaining losers. As they began to leave, Ayaka told Hanoka that she had accepted to be his mistress, but said that the battle would not end until the witch leader was defeated. When they arrived at school, Ayaka revealed that her school was secretly a guild of witches, a hidden residence built for witches. Upon reaching the principal's office, she started wondering why they were so late. When she approached, she revealed that Ayaka was actually her daughter, telling Hanoka that she would teach him to become her new apprentice. But the only thing Hanoka learned was where Ayaka inherited her enormous attributes. A few days later, as Kuraishi and her team ambushed Hanoka on his way to school, Ayaka told him to watch from the side like a ugly, worthless dog. When the girls began to advance rapidly, Ayaka spun her broom, exploding them into the sky. But Hanoka wished she would just blow him up too. Later at school, Hanoka wondered why Ayaka didn't have love letters filling her locker, but when he opened his own locker, a pile of letters fell on him. Instead of being full of love, they were all death threats and voodoo dolls aimed at erasing his disgusting existence. Ayaka knew it must have been the work of her fan club members. When they reached the classroom, Ayaka handed him a stack of books to read, saying it was the beginning of his training, but as her face and body came close to him, he realized everyone wanted him dead. Later, on the tennis court, the instructor decided to pair Hanoka with Ayaka. While he was still afraid to be near her, Ayaka said it was all part of his training. When the game started, she kept hitting the ball to their opponents, but Hanoka missed every shot, and by the end of the game, he was exhausted. However, she lifted him up and pressed her massive cannons against him, showing him how to hold the racket. Upon returning home, Ayaka noticed a magical fish flying around the bus. When the next stop changed to Dead End, she tried to protect Hanoka, realizing an enemy was on the bus. At that moment, the sunlight revealed their bodies, and Ayaka realized the bus was moving on its own. Soon after, darkness began spreading through the windows, and a woman approached them. Her ocean magic expanded at the same time. She was Crenoir, a powerful tower, which known for her witchcraft powers. But when Ayaka tried to shield Hanoka, Crenoir froze her with a spell and attempted to explode her body, only to realize Ayaka was unharmed. Hanoka immediately decided to protect her, but Ayaka called him an idiot because, no matter what he did, her flaming body could not be damaged. At that moment, Crenoir stabbed him in the abdomen, but as he screamed in pain, he realized he had healed again. It made no sense to him, but as he began to question if it was an illusion, Ayaka passed out. Noticing her wound, he realized that his own injury had been transferred to her body. Crenoir revealed that Ayaka had already cast a damage transfer spell, which would continue to hurt her whenever he was attacked. Before he could react, another witch captured him, and Crenoir said Ayaka had already borrowed his power to become invincible, and they were connected by a strong bond. She said his best chance to save her was to share the rest of his magical power with her and revealed the black orb for him to swallow. She said it would release his power, but Hanoka knew it was a trap. When she tried to put the orb in his mouth, a green flame erupted as Ayaka managed to rescue him, but since she was still too weak, she passed out again. However, she told him it wasn't enough to stop her, and as green roots began to appear on her body, she told him to close his eyes and keep thinking about her. The dormant witch's power started to awaken, kicking Crenoir in the throat and revealing her flaming plant demon. But as the flames burned Crenoir, she promised to return for revenge at dusk. When Hanoka woke up, he discovered Ayaka was unconscious and managed to take her to the hospital. While there, he noticed Crenoir had placed the orb in his pocket but decided to hide it in his drawer. A few days later, as Hanoka continued his training, Ayaka told him to jump as high as he could. Then, as he ran towards her, he attempted to jump, but the cloak helped him fly high and lifted him to the ceiling. When he got scared and started falling, Ayaka managed to catch him, revealing that the cloak made them lighter than feathers. In an instant, she summoned her broom and told him to summon his own. However, the quantum physics teacher couldn't imagine holding a long stick, as the only stick he had ever held was his 2-inch persuasion. At that moment, students began entering the gym, but as Hanoka started to panic about being noticed, Ayaka told him that the cloak protected them from being seen by anyone. Soon after, they began searching for a new training location, but since Ayaka thought Hanoka was afraid of heights, she started running with him, determined to make him lose his fear. While flying on her broom, she circled the school and eventually took off towards the sky. She continued over the city and even flew between the towers before finally resting on a railing, watching the sunset. Hanoka found it beautiful, but his lazy rear ended up falling asleep. A few minutes later, upon waking on the flying broom, he noticed a group of girls intimidating his classmate. When he suggested rescuing her, Ayaka said her duty was to protect the city from evil witches. If he was too disturbed by the intimidation, she suggested he call the police, saying she couldn't risk putting him in danger. However, Hanoka decided to act as a hero and, by chance, summoned his broom at that moment. He jumped towards the ground, but his dumb brain soon realized he didn't actually know how to fly on the broom. Luckily, when Ayaka decided to release her power, he managed to control the broom, but the force of the wind devastated the area. As he flew through the city, barely avoiding traffic, he ended up colliding with the intimidators. However, he was still a weak loser who couldn't get up, so one of the intimidators sat on him, ready to make him pay for his actions. As they wondered if he was some kind of cheap Harry Potter and were about to kill him, Ayaka appeared behind them and unleashed her hell spell, burning them alive. When Hanoka asked why she killed innocent citizens, she said it was a trap to lure him in and revealed that they were tower witches. Meanwhile, Kuraishi and the rest of her team were wondering how they could finally defeat Ayaka, but when Rin suggested attacking Hanoka when he was alone, Crenoir appeared before them offering her support. The next day, while Hanoka was getting ready for school, his sister Kasumi tried to ask who his secret crush was. She already suspected he was seeing the school princess, but Hanoka was afraid to reveal his secret and called it a coincidence. As he started heading to school, Kasumi began stalking him like a crazy person, but as the bus was about to leave, he started running towards it only to trip over a rope. At that moment, Kuraishi appeared before him, flanked by 2 bunnies. At the same time, Ayaka had been cornered by the rest of the team, and Mei started saying they had discovered her power and had come to eliminate her once and for all. Then, she drew her whip, and they attacked simultaneously. On the other hand, Hanoka had been successfully immobilized, and Kuraishi began saying that Ayaka had also been captured the previous day. When Crenoir visited the girls, she had suggested separating Ayaka from Hanoka, revealing that was the only way to weaken Ayaka's magic. With their plans successful, Kuraishi commanded her bunny witches to take Hanoka away, but in the blink of an eye, they were annihilated, and when a giant appeared in the city, they realized it was actually a teddy bear. While Hanoka was still in shock, he noticed Kasumi was controlling the teddy bear and discovered she was also a witch. She had come to save her pathetic brother and ordered her teddy bear to throw the captured bunny far away. As Kuraishi grew angry, she decided to create her own giant bunny, eager to balance the fight. As she advanced, she bumped into the teddy bear, but it managed to steady itself, ready to retaliate. It charged at the bunny and slammed it to the ground with force. With the teddy bear ready to attack again, the bunny began begging for mercy, afraid of being beaten. As the bunny begged for mercy, the teddy bear lowered its guard, but the bunny seized the chance and poked its eyes, causing it to recoil. To capitalize on this advantage, the bunny rushed to attack, but as it evaded the attack, the teddy bear appeared in front of it and attempted a suplex. Luckily, the bunny managed to land safely, but when it kicked, the teddy bear started spinning it around, eventually throwing it against the power lines. However, when the bunny came back to attack, the teddy bear missed the kick and was poked in the neck. Before it could recover, the sick bunny spread a green mist in its face and, using the power lines as wrestling ropes, came back with a blow, but the teddy bear hit its useless face, sending it away until it finally fell. While Kasumi was boasting about her victory, a skeletal dinosaur knocked over her teddy bear from behind, but it managed to regain its balance. As the bunny reappeared to turn the fight into a 2-on-1 battle, the teddy bear began to expand, reaching up to the sky. While the bunny and the dinosaur attacked its foot like ants, Kasumi revealed that she would never fail in her duty to protect her weak and useless brother, then crushed both of them, causing an explosion in the city. At the same time, the principal was trying to relax in her office, but upon turning on the TV, she realized that half the city had been destroyed. Meanwhile, Kuraishi and Rin survived the explosion, and their bunnies fled with them. So, when Kasumi landed, Hanoka thanked her for saving his life, but she said she always protected him when he was away from Ayaka. At that moment, Hanoka realized Ayaka hadn't arrived yet and started saying they needed to rescue her immediately, but Kasumi revealed she was already safe, and the teddy bear placed her on the ground. Hanoka began to worry if she was injured, but Kasumi was furious because he didn't care more about her. However, Ayaka thought Kasumi's presence was irrelevant and started telling Hanoka that she would protect him every second of the day, claiming she would move into his room. At school, the principal discovered that Medusa, the second most powerful witch in the kingdom, had escaped after decades in prison. Later that day, while Hanoka's mother was thanking Ayaka for always saving her son, she decided to reveal that Ayaka was actually his fiancé. They were promised to each other even before they were born, and she patiently waited for this day, happy to finally be able to drive him out, forcing him to become a real man. At that moment, Kasumi grew furious and started saying she also wanted a piece of Hanoka. Hanoka ran off with Ayaka. After getting away from Kasumi, Hanoka used his classic Reddit pickup line, saying, "Roses are red, lemons are sour. Lift your skirt and give me an hour." However, Ayaka revealed that they might have known each other for much longer than they actually remembered. The memories were vague in her mind, but she was sure they had always known each other and that a witch had erased their memories. However, her duty to protect him remained unchanged, and she told him she would continue to protect him forever. At that moment, they arrived at a limousine, and as they went to her house, Hanoka noticed that Ayaka's family was extremely wealthy, so living a luxurious life with her wasn't so bad after all. When they arrived at her house, Hanoka realized it was the most beautiful place he had ever seen, but she decided to take him to the upper floors, offering to share her room with him. However, when the elevator opened, Ayaka realized that all the maids had been turned to stone and that her room had been invaded by Medusa. Sensing the danger, she told Hanoka to go back to the 12th floor as the doors closed immediately. At that moment, Medusa decided to introduce herself and told Ayaka that she had come to eliminate her and extract the white thing from inside Hanoka. However, Ayaka was not going to surrender without a fight, so she prepared to unleash all her power. As she flew towards Medusa, the giant serpent blocked her attack and managed to repel Ayaka, but when she tried again, the serpent threw her aside, and Hanoka attempted to open the elevator at the same time. He thought the enemy was definitely powerful and decided to don his magical cloak, believing he needed to help Ayaka for the first time. At that moment, the elevator doors began to melt before exploding. When Hanoka found Ayaka injured, she immediately closed his eyes so he wouldn't see her deformed hands. With Medusa preparing for another attack, Ayaka told Hanoka to run, saying she would stop Medusa from pursuing him. At that moment, a girl began to play a flute, and the power of the melody started turning Ayaka into stone. Desperate to save her, Hanoka tried to offer himself in exchange, but Medusa said he was useless to her, revealing that their souls were linked and that with Ayaka's death, his would also occur. Medusa thought Ayaka was better off abandoned as a statue, but Hanoka spotted the Chronogera orb in front of him. He still thought it was a trap, but desperate to restore Ayaka to life, he swallowed the orb at that moment. The White Princess Evermillion appeared before his eyes, and when two monsters attacked her, she launched lights that cut them into pieces. But when Medusa flew towards her, she emitted an even greater light that weakened the foundations of the entire house. Meanwhile, Kazan was still in her office, but as she prepared to go home, the house exploded before her eyes. Annoyed by what she saw, she thought Medusa must be responsible and ordered her toy witch to summon all the witches from the workshop in the city. At home, Hanoka was desperate to restore Ayaka to normal, so as he began to ask for help, Evermillion offered him a solution in exchange for his eyes. Thinking it was a good deal, Hanoka agreed immediately, even willing to give his life, but she told him that his entire life was worthless and decided to reveal the solution. However, Hanoka was scared to kiss her and started saying that his virgin lips weren't ready, but Evermillion said that was the only way to restore Ayaka. She explained that Medusa couldn't use all her power since her hands and eyes were still sealed. Because of this, Medusa had only managed to turn Ayaka into stone because Hanoka didn't believe her, so Evermillion told him to ignite their power by believing in their bond. As she spoke these words, Medusa's soul was revived, and Evermillion told Hanoka that she would soon attack again but would not save Ayaka this time. She began to disintegrate, telling him that the first seal had been broken but suggested he stay out of trouble. At that moment, Medusa appeared before him, eager for revenge. Realizing he was lost alone, Hanoka decided to plant a kiss on Ayaka, causing the stone to start melting. With Ayaka revived, Kuraishi and his useless group decided to attack her, but she immediately pushed them away. Ayaka rose, but when Medusa attacked her with a flaming serpent, they began to fight in the air, sending sparks across the sky. As Ayaka's hand began to turn to stone, she instantly shattered it, but as they resumed fighting, Medusa's serpent disintegrated while Ayaka suppressed it. When Hanoka regained consciousness that night, he was happy to see Ayaka saved once again, but she decided to show him Medusa, revealing that she was on their side but would explain later, and kissed his face for saving her life. However, Hanoka had a climax at that moment, but she told him never to trade his life for hers. As they left the school, they saw all the witches from the workshop arriving for the emergency meeting. Later that night, they decided to return to Hanoka's house since Ayaka's home had been destroyed. When Hanoka announced that they would both be moving in, Takia realized she would have grandchildren sooner than expected and immediately welcomed them. However, the next day, Kasumi was excited to develop more Sikin plots with her brother. During lunch, she yelled at Ayaka and threatened to expel her. When Takia tried to calm her down, Kasumi began screaming at her to shut up, but her words made her mother go into apathy mode. With Takia becoming nothing more than dead weight, Hanoka decided to drag her to her room. At school, the student council president, Mio, began telling her fan club members to expel Hanoka from school as she thought he was a distraction for Ayaka. However, since everyone at the table was completely useless, she decided to order Miki to do the job, threatening to fire him if he failed. That morning, when the couple arrived at school, Miki decided to invite them to his lab. Inside the lab, he started telling Hanoka that his useless face was only causing problems at school and distracting Ayaka from fulfilling her duties as the school princess. He He thought Hanoka couldn't have chosen a worse time to cling to her like a parasite and reminded him that Ayaka's duty was to represent the entire school as an exemplary student. However, when he asked Hanoka to step away from her, Ayaka said it was impossible, as she would rather bend the school rules. And since the school princess had the second most powerful authority, she could practically rewrite everything. Realizing he couldn't separate them, Mikuri revealed that he would soon be expelled from his council position, but Ayaka promised to come up with a plan. At that moment, Mikuri revealed a green experiment, but when the orb exploded, disintegrating Ayaka, Hanoka was teleported to a mysterious dimension. When he tried to ask how they ended up in that world, Mikuri revealed that they were inside a scientific experiment and said that Ayaka was safe in the real world, showing him a replica of the Chronogera orb. He told Hanoka that one of the 5 seals inside his body had been broken by the orb and that the seals created to imprison Evermillion would start to weaken until they were completely destroyed. Evermillion's freedom would create chaos in their world, as she would destroy Kaini for sealing her decades ago. Additionally, he had already discovered that Ayaka was hiding Medusa from Kazan. But Hanoka started to say it was impossible, though he wondered if Mikuri would believe him. Even so, Mikuri already knew the truth and began asking Hanoka to become his prince, saying he would protect him forever. At that moment, the illusion shattered and Ayaka pierced him with iron bars. When the spell was undone, revealing a wooden puppet in his place, Ayaka knocked down Hanoka but realized he was unharmed. As they left, Ayaka decided to take Hanoka to the announcement room and had him summon all the students to the gym. When everyone was gathered, she decided to go on stage and, with her authority as the school princess, fired Mikuri for being a useless council president. At that moment, Hanoka appeared before them, and Ayaka appointed him as the new council president. With Mikuri terrified, he began to wonder if she was trying to kill him, but Ayaka assured him that no one would ever attack him. That same day, during another council meeting, a girl introduced Ayaka as Hanoka's new vice president, but another girl became furious and started asking why Ayaka had replaced Mikuri with that loser. After school, as they were heading home, Kasumi spied on them from a distance and thought that kidnapping her brother was the only way to keep him close forever. So, while Hanoka was trying to buy stuffed animals at a store, the stuffed bear sneaked in and started running away with him before Ayaka noticed. While she was still in shock, a car crashed into the store, exploding instantly, and tranquilizer darts pierced her body, causing her to faint. Kasumi told Hanoka that she had come to kidnap him and that Ayaka would remain unconscious for a few days. As they flew away in a paper airplane, Kasumi began to say that she had prepared a new home far from the city and planned to hide him forever. However, Hanoka wondered what was wrong with that girl and started saying he didn't want to be separated from the love of his life. At that moment, a giant tree dragon appeared above them, and they realized that Ayaka had found them. Immediately, she tried to destroy their plane with a spell, but missing narrowly, she began casting continuous spells, destroying the entire city in the process. Desperate to escape, Kasumi steered the plane towards the sky, but they collided with a building and started falling towards the ground. Fortunately, Ayaka saved Hanoka and managed to capture Kasumi, but using her body as a shield, they crashed through a glass ceiling and hit the ground hard. However, when a group of witches arrived, they realized that they had already disappeared. As Ayaka dragged the unconscious Kasumi back home, that night, when Hanoka woke up, Ayaka told him that Kasumi had survived and was already sleeping in her room. But when he decided to thank her for saving his useless sister, Ayaka asked to become his own sister, admiring the special bond he had with Kasumi. However, Hanoka was not raised in Alabama, but Ayaka begged him to call her little sister and made him repeat it several times. The next morning, he noticed that his two sisters were not getting along and wished they would get closer, while the phone announced that Kazan would be visiting their house. The shock of the news finally awakened Tamiae, who, moments later, decided to reveal the family's biggest secret, confessing that she had betrayed their father and had a baby. She had abandoned the child at birth, But since their father had not yet returned from his search for milk, she decided to recover the child, revealing it to the elder sister. The useless failure woke up screaming, but Ayaka managed to slip away. As he walked, he noticed that Ayaka was preparing food for him wearing an apron and that Takia and Kasumi had left the house early, but he thought they were trying to let him make the first move with Ayaka. Meanwhile, Kuraishi and his useless squad were spying on them, with Ayaka having smuggled everyone into her room, determined to keep them close, hoping to hide Hinoka's secret from Kazan, as she feared his mother would seal him if she discovered that he had broken the first seal created to imprison Evermillion. Later that day, when the girls returned home, Ayaka told Hinoka to take a shower, something he hadn't done in 2 weeks, calling him disgusting. Her real intention was to keep him out of Kazan's sight, but when Hinoka tried to enter the bathroom, he found the ugly witches inside, who tied him up to prevent him from escaping. However, he managed to fall out, but while Kasumi wondered how they had invaded her house, Kazan knocked her out before putting Takia to sleep. She was looking for the witches and was pleased to finally find them. However, when she summoned her rogue, promising to capture them, Ayaka attacked her with her broom, but Kazan immediately repelled her. Dazed by the attack, Kazan told Hinoka to act like a man and order her to back off, but Hinoka remembered Miki's words, who had already told him to keep the seal's secret from Kazan. So, when he made a decision, he told Ayaka to protect the useless witches no matter what happened. Immediately, her flames intensified, and Ayaka decided to reveal her secret contract, summoning Medusa to merge with her. As the snakes began to surround her body, Medusa appeared beside her and began to drain Ayaka's essence, but the sight made Hinoka nauseous and he fainted. However, in his unconscious state, memories began to replay before his eyes, and he discovered that Ayaka had intentionally spared Medusa's life after their battle. Her plan was to form an alliance with her, hoping they could stop Kazan when she eventually discovered that Hinoka's seal was starting to break and released the Apple of Discord to strengthen their fusion. Medusa accepted her offer, and at the same time, thick scales began spreading over her body like armor, but Kazan thought Medusa had brainwashed her and was trying to make Ayaka her successor. As Hinoka realized his mother was just another idiot, Medusa called her a confused detective, as she was too stupid for her position. However, Kazan was determined to break their union, but when they crossed their brooms, her face began to turn to stone. Even so, she didn't stop and eventually knocked down Ayaka before turning into a stone statue. While Ayaka managed to free herself, she tried to prepare for escape, but Kenny struck her from behind and immediately saved her from falling when the stone dissolved from her body. Kazan told Ayaka that she had weakened and that her union with Medusa was making her even weaker. With Kazan ready to break her teeth, Hinoka wished he had the power to do something. Realizing he had already released one of the seals, he decided to awaken his witch god powers. Before he knew it, he switched places with Ayaka, and Kazan punched his useless teeth. When he woke up, he discovered he was trapped in a cell, and Ayaka realized she couldn't burn through the iron bars. She told Hinoka that they were in a punishment chamber and revealed that Kazan had defeated everyone, including Medusa, who had been captured. She thought this was the worst thing that could have happened and told Hinoka that Kazan would force Medusa to confess all her secrets. With Kazan having warned her to protect Hinoka's seal, Ayaka realized she was in deep trouble. At that moment, she decided to break his chains and thought he had been very brave for switching places with her and taking Kazan's blow in her stead. Hearing this, Hinoka's 2, Ines, finally grew to 3, but he decided to ask why she had protected the witches in the first place. Ayaka then revealed that it was the only way to keep their secret safe, as her mother would force them to reveal the truth once they were captured. To protect him in this case, she had decided to ally with Medusa. Hinoka was pleased to ally with her great cannons, and when he asked if she had a new plan, Ayaka said they needed to defeat her mother and make her their new ally. She mentioned that his body was full of sticky and valuable substances and that she would protect him from the terrible witches who intended to steal them. Meanwhile, Kazan was trying to interrogate Cronwar, but when the girl asked how she had lost Medusa, Kazan got angry and revealed that Medusa had been taken by a pair of witches from another workshop in a different city, who decided to return her to prison. To make matters worse, they hadn't even allowed her to interrogate the threat, rendering her efforts completely futile. As Kazan became increasingly enraged at the thought, she broke the board in half. However, as she began to say she would finally enjoy a bit of peace in her city, the school exploded from the ground, and Ia cut through the smoke to reveal their faces. Immediately, she prepared for another confrontation with her mother, but Kazan flew on her broom and began to wonder why she was acting irresponsibly. When Ayaka tried to challenge her to another fight, Kazan told her to go away, tired of kicking her ass. As Hanoka and Ayaka began heading home, the loser was relieved that his secret was still safe, but he remembered that they had only managed to escape because of Ayaka's hidden powers. By strengthening their bond to increase her own power, she clung to Hanoka while he thought she was about to develop a plot with him. However, inserting her small staff into his ear gave her enough excitement for her to start glowing with a green light that had destroyed the school years ago. When Kazan introduced Ayaka to Kenny at Tiwei, she told them to guard her like watchdogs. But from the first day of school, all the students saw her as a celebrity, and during sports, she smashed the ball with incredible force, making all the useless girls think she was a goddess. However, she was as cold as ice, and sometimes they wondered if she had fallen from a different planet or lost her memories. But when a group of useless bullies tried to cut her hair, she pushed the scissors away and raised their body temperature until they fainted. A few weeks later, she decided to start the search for Hanoka and even waited outside a boys' school until sunset. As days went by, she continued her search for other boys' schools and eventually crossed all the schools off her list. However, one day in the spring, when she began to think she would never find him for the rest of her life, she spotted him for the first time and started running towards him. But when she found him, she realized he was with Kasumi and had no memory of her. When Hanoka woke up in the morning, he remembered the memory for the first time but thought it was just a dream. As Kasumi woke up for breakfast, she wondered when her house had turned into a mental institution and then ran to ask Hanoka what the hell those girls were doing. But he found Ayaka wanting a piece of his brother. Heading to school, Kasumi decided to hold onto Hanoka, fearing that Ayaka would snatch him away. At school, when Hanoka decided to open his locker, millions of letters fell on top of him, and he discovered that the students were planning to eliminate him for taking control of the student council. At the same time, a notorious gang decided to invade the school to get revenge for their useless friend who had been expelled from the council presidency. When the bell rang, signaling the class change, Hanoka and Ayaka saw that the school had been taken over by the invaders, and a ball nearly smashed Hanoka's disgusting face. As if that wasn't enough, the gang turned the school into a motorcycle gang territory and remodeled the entire place into a madhouse. When Hanoka wondered why the school was in chaos, Ayaka told him it was a rebellion because he had been appointed council president. She explained that the students wanted to remove him from the position and decided to start a revolt to achieve that. At that moment, a bully pushed Tioe to the ground, and an ugly, useless girl appeared before them. Her name was Renan, and she was the cause of all the chaos. When her even uglier assistant handed a letter to Hanoka, he realized he was being invited to a solo battle in the school gymnasium. As he left, Hanoka realized he was screwed. Tuko then decided to reveal that the former President Mio had summoned the invaders seeking justice, lying that Hanoka had taken her place by force. Her words made Renan furious, and she swore to help Mio get revenge. When Hanoka arrived at the gym, he saw that all the students were already gathered, but Renan told him he was useless for coming alone. Fearing that she would rub his face in the dirt, Hanoka tried to suggest they talk, but she punched his useless face, knocking him to the ground. She said he was so useless he shouldn't even exist, and that his disgusting face would be more useful as a toilet lid before punching him again. As Hanoka felt the pain from Ayaka, Renan continued punching his face like a disgusting punching bag, then followed up with quick blows that made him sit down like a weakling. However, Renan wasn't finished and began to wonder why a weak loser like him should become council president in the first place. When she tried to punch him into oblivion, Hanoka managed to awaken his power, remembering that Ayaka had already suggested a plan to take her down. So, while he dodged her final blow, Hanoka pushed her to the ground but realized he was still too weak and useless to knock her out. At that moment, he decided to surrender, but the lights went out instantly, and Kuraishi's useless team descended from the roof. As they surrounded Rinin, she shoved Hanoka aside and immediately punched them, leaving Kuraishi already unconscious. Rinin was ready to tear her apart, but Ayaka landed behind her and hit her with a burning punch that sent her rolling away. When the lights came back on, the witches managed to lift Hanoka's unconscious body to show that he was the winner, but all the students saw was Hanoka's weak and beaten body. The next day, when the duo returned to school, the students parted ways for them, and Hanoka began to think he was becoming a local hero. A few days later, as Ayaka told Hanoka she was finally willing to teach him to fight, she decided to take him to the roof. When Hanoka wondered why she was suddenly willing to train him, Ayaka said she was trying to save him from being shot. At that moment, she summoned a flame from the ground and turned it into a fire monster. But while trying to help him summon his own monster, Hanoka could only summon his small sword while Ayaka's massive cannons went up and down, making him climax. Trying to hide the stain, he began to tell her to stop treating him like a hopeless loser. So, Ayaka decided to be tough on him and summoned a fire beast at that moment. She said she had chosen the hard path and was willing to burn him as the loser he was. As she let the monster loose, it released a flame that knocked him to the ground, and Hanoka realized he was screwed. However, Ayaka considered this part of his training and ordered him to summon his own monster immediately. The flaming beast zoomed past him, but when Hanoka began to think he was safe, it whipped him at that moment. Realizing he was injured, Ayaka decided to help him and prevent the monster from devouring him. With her elbow scratched, she decided to end the training, but Hanoka thought he could still impress her and said he was willing to continue. So, she decided to carry him like a weak, ugly baby and told him to summon a monster before throwing him off the building. However, she decided to follow him on her broom and told him to focus on the image he wanted to summon. With Hanoka about to smash his head, Ayaka tried to save him, but when their fingers touched, the light of their bond exploded in a massive burst, and a huge replica of Ayaka appeared at that moment. As Hanoka still wondered how he managed to summon the spirit, she punched the building in front of them, but Hanoka passed out at that moment, having exhausted all his magic. Meanwhile, Mikui and Kronwar witnessed everything and revealed that Hanoka must have broken his second seal. At this rate, he would break all the seals, and Miki thought Kazan would discover his secret soon. At the same time, Rinin, who was actually a workshop witch, decided to visit Kazan, and when they began to face a magical circle, Rinin told her that a powerful tower which had visited her and threatened to blow up the entire city. Meanwhile, Ayaka was already heading home, but when Hanoka woke up, he decided to thank her for always saving him. At that moment, Ayaka remembered that she had once seen Hanoka in her dreams, where he told her they would eventually become friends in high school. That dream stayed in her memories for years and made her start searching for him when she entered high school. Inside an abandoned building, the powerful tower, which decided to visit Kazan. Her name was weakened, and she revealed that the magical circle was actually a magical weapon capable of creating an explosion larger than an atomic bomb. When Kazan asked if she was willing to negotiate Hanoka in exchange for sparing the city, Weekend revealed that she actually intended to destroy the city and still capture Hanoka. With Kazan having to protect the city with her magical barrier, Weekend wondered how many people she could protect at once. At that moment, Kazan realized the imminent threat, but Weekend immediately retreated. When she revealed her watch, the magical circle was activated, and explosions began occurring throughout the city, even shaking the school during its exams. As others ran for their lives, the ground exploded with a wall of flames that burned their papers and almost fried Hanoka's face. Ayaka decided to escape with him. Inside the abandoned building, Weekend revealed that she had intentionally lured Medusa to the city and used her as a pawn for her own ends. Her desire was to take complete control of the territory. So, when Kazan fainted from exhaustion after using all her magic on the barrier, Weekend ordered her followers to lock her up. Meanwhile, Ayaka and Hinoka arrived at an abandoned warehouse, where she revealed a secret tunnel as an escape route. But with Kazan already locked away, Weekend told Ayaka that she would have captured Hinoka successfully once her magic was restored. At that moment, Ayaka and Hinoka arrived at a coliseum, and Kasumi was delighted to see her brother again. While Rinin decided to introduce herself properly, Hinoka asked what caused the explosion, but another witch summoned a weapon and immediately fired at him. To retaliate, Ayaka punched the witch's disgusting mouth and, while dodging Rinin's attack, swept her to the ground. However, the bullet damage was transferred to Ayaka's body, and she began to lose consciousness. With another witch ready to end her life, Hinoka rushed to protect her and managed to cover her in time. When Rinin started advancing towards them, Kasumi decided to protect her brother but was instantly knocked out. Rinin began telling him that an enemy was attacking the city and that he needed to be hidden for now. She then decided to take him down an old staircase to a dungeon but threatened to eliminate him if he tried to escape. When Hinoka was finally alone, he decided to summon his broom, thinking he could fly to the top. But Ayaka woke up at that moment and told him they couldn't use magic. When Hinoka asked her who was attacking the city, she said it was probably a tower witch and thought they were trapped because her mother was captured. Their best hope was to hide until Kazan recovered her magic, but the thought of being captured left Hinoka scared. Meanwhile, an ugly teddy bear was approaching the dungeon, but when it fell inside, it revealed a hologram of Weekend, who tried to introduce herself. However, Ayaka wasn't willing to listen to her nonsense, so she crushed the useless doll, causing it to explode and eventually creating an opening in the wall. While Hinoka still feared that Rinin would beat him up, Ayaka told him that Weekend was coming to attack them. Additionally, she told him they couldn't use magic until the barrier was restored. Soon, they started heading towards the exit, but when they got outside, they realized the entire city was completely burned. When Hinoka began to wonder if everyone in the city was dead, Ayaka told him that Kazan's magic would bring them back to life once the enemies were defeated. However, when Hinoka started lamenting like a useless child, saying he was responsible for the disaster, Ayaka told him to hang in there and said they needed to find a way to restore the barrier immediately. Hearing her words, Hinoka finally gathered his courage and began to follow her as they walked through the destroyed city. After entering a secret facility, they started descending into a cave, but as they rounded a mountain, Hinoka slipped and began to fall. Ayaka immediately followed him, but as she managed to catch him, they fell together to the ground. Fortunately, they survived the fall, but Hinoka realized he would continue to be a loser forever. In the Colosseum, a new witch arrived, and upon revealing an arsenal of bombs, she began telling Rinin that Weekend was threatening to annihilate a group of workshop witches she had captured, but was willing to release them in exchange for Hinoka. At the same time, Kasumi and the entire Kuraishi squad were spying on Weekend from a rooftop. Meanwhile, Hinoka and Ayaka were descending a tunnel, but a tower which appeared in the darkness. Her name was Gibraltar, and she revealed that she had been waiting for them. Sensing the danger, Ayaka pushed Hinoka away, but a stone monster formed before her and crushed her to the ground, continuing to pummel her. Desperate to save her, Hinoka tried to pull her out, but the monster finally took him, and Gibraltar said that Ayaka was completely useless without her magic. To end her insignificant life, the monster tried to deliver a blow, but Ayaka dodged and began running towards it. She struck the monster with powerful punches, eventually landing a flying punch that caused all the stones to disintegrate. In the Colosseum, Tuko began telling Rinin that Hinoka and Ayaka weren't answering the dungeon phone and thought they must have escaped. Rinin then wondered who would become the new bait. At that moment, Natsumi began to say that the bombs could easily be destroyed with a dispersion spell, but with all their magic exhausted, Rinin thought they could only be saved by a miracle. Meanwhile, Hinoka and Ayaka arrived at a large tree, and she told him it was the sacred ground of the workshop, from where all their magic was drawn. When Hinoka realized his duty, He told her he was ready to create a new barrier. At school, while Rinin and the other witches decided to confront Weekend, the lunatic began to wonder why Hinoka was missing, but Rinin asked for more time to find him. However, Weekend thought they were a bunch of useless losers and threatened to kill the hostages one by one. At that moment, Kasumi began to think that Weekend might not be the real enemy and suspected that a more powerful witch might have sent her as a disguise to hide her own identity. She thought the real enemy could be spying on them from inside the school and ran to find them. On the sacred ground, Ayaka began telling Hinoka that he would become weak once the contract was complete, but hoped he could survive. As he approached the sacred tree, vines wrapped around him underwater, but at the same time, Weekend began the countdown to the first detonation. However, when the bomb was deactivated, Kuraishi appeared to offer support, and with Weekend about to activate another detonato, Rinin and Natsumi started running towards her, and realizing her magic had been restored, Rinin punched Weekend to the ground. At the same time, Hinoka realized he was too weak to walk, so Ayaka suggested he rest until he regained his strength. Fortunately, Rinin and Natsumi had successfully captured Weekend and decided to lock her in a special cell. Proud of their success, Rinin began to tell her that she could never escape, as no magic could break the glass seal. However, as they tried to leave, Weekend began taunting them, saying their minds were flatter than a board, because with their weak and useless powers, they could never have captured her alone. She called them idiots and revealed the bombs attached to her body, which exploded immediately in their faces, throwing them away. Hinoka became even weaker from losing more magic. Meanwhile, while Weekend survived the explosion, another witch appeared to provide support and covered her with a new cloak. This was exactly what she had planned, but when Hinoka went into a trance, he realized that Weekend was detonating the Colosseum. The sight weakened him even further, but he decided to awaken a healing light that restored Kuraishi and the other witches. However, when Ayaka discovered he was using too much energy, she struck him on the head, leaving him unconscious. She felt it was her duty to take control of the rest of the battle and vowed to avenge her city. She laid him in a room, hoping he would be safe there. Hinoka then realized he had been teleported to the past, and noticing his mother, he realized she was also a loser like him and that the loser gene had always been in their family. However, a young Kazan decided to beat everyone up before making friends with Takia. So, when Hinoka grew up, Kazan decided to take him home, but after Ayaka saw him, she asked her mother to place them in the same class when they started high school, as she was eager to see her childhood vision come true. In an instant, Hinoka was teleported to another dimension and saw the disgusting face of Miki, who began to tell him that he had only appeared in this dimension because of his contract signed on the sacred tree. Thus, his memories were sent to the cycle of recollection. Miki told him that these memories were actually Kazan's. When Hinoka asked where they were, Miki said they were in the space between dimensions and offered to show him the important memories. Upon arriving in a new dimension, Mikuri explained to Hinoka that the stars represented human life and that they were hidden there whenever the city fell into magical chaos. However, when they were restored, their memories would be erased. Mikuri revealed that he was, in fact, the mage responsible for erasing memories within the city. Kasumi's red bear began running towards a black bear, but when trying to push it away, the enemy bear kicked it away. Immediately, the red bear returned, and they attacked each other, neither willing to back down. They began exchanging punches directly to their faces until the red bear finally kicked the black bear away. However, when Kasumi began to think the fight was over, the black bear got up again, ready for another round. They continued battling, both determined to gain the upper hand, until the red bear dodged a direct hit and smashed the building. When a witch began falling towards the ground, Kasumi decided to save her, but was hit by a punch. With Kasumi exhausted from her magic, the large black bear was ready to eliminate her and prepared to deliver its final blow. Meanwhile, Tor's puppet decided to reveal Weekend's whereabouts. So, when Ayaka prepared to go after her, she asked Dori to watch over Hinoka until he woke up. Inside the city, Medusa managed to save Kasumi and turn the black bear into stone before making it explode. With the useless girls happy to see their master again, they began wondering how she managed to escape from her prison. However, she immediately reprimanded them, saying they were a group of useless followers who would never accomplish anything before fleeing with them. Soon after, Ayaka began flying towards Weekend's location, and upon entering the church, she realized Weekend was indeed there. Without hesitation, she drew Ron's magical sword and started advancing towards her, but Weekend detonated a bomb at that moment, forcing Ayaka to retreat. In the dimension, Miki revealed that he had actually erased Hinoka's and Ayaka's memories. Shocked, Hinoka tried to ask why he did it, but Miki saved him from an explosion. At that moment, they realized a tower which had invaded their dimension. Inside the church, Weekend continued activating the bombs, so Ayaka began flying around, trying to avoid the explosions. When she started attacking, she leaped high with her blade, but an explosion threw her to the side. Believing she could never be defeated, Weekend began to claim that she was practically invincible. Ayaka tried to attack her again, but as bombs exploded in her face, she managed to cut Weekend's hair. Ayaka, unharmed by the explosions, realized that Weekend was using her magic as a shield and that the blade was just a distraction. But while Ayaka tried to cut her in half, Weekend detonated a bomb to block her path before activating another bomb that caused the ceiling to collapse. However, Ayaka managed to avoid the disaster as she began to overflow with flames. Nonetheless, Weekend was excited, thinking she had found a worthy opponent. Still, she eventually subdued her and began saying that Ayaka would be useless without Hinoka's magic. Then, Ayaka summoned her flames and revealed she had already swapped shirts with Hinoka to keep some of his magic. Thinking the fight was over, she tried to leave, but Weekend managed to get up again and detonated another bomb that threw Ayaka against the wall. Immediately, Weekend summoned giant monsters, and Ayaka realized her wounds were healing. Meanwhile, Hinoka was starting to burn due to a fever, so Atori decided to remove his thread armor but noticed that the loser was beginning to develop a man's body. In the dimension, the tower which continued launching attacks, so Miki told Hinoka they were trying to capture him. He thought his real body would soon be found, so he decided to unleash his soul, sending a shock through his body that helped him wake up. When Hinoka managed to get dressed, he started telling Atori they needed to rescue Ayaka immediately. However, Ayaka had already ordered him to be protected, so she pushed him back to bed but decided to leave when the phone rang. After she left, Miki began telling her that he had captured the intruder but discovered that bombs had been planted in the dimension where human souls were kept. Their best hope was to deliver Hinoka to Weekend, but Miki thought it could be a trap. When Hinoka appeared at that moment, he demanded to know where Ayaka had gone, fearing she would be killed without his magic. But, in the church, Weekend had managed to capture Ayaka, realizing she had exhausted all her magic. When Ayaka wondered how she managed to protect herself from the attacks, Weekend revealed that her magic helped her recover from injuries and that she managed to conserve her magic while attacking with her bombs. Additionally, she had carefully planned and planted bombs throughout the city. However, all her regenerative magic had already been used, and even her magic reserve was practically depleted. With a snap, she made her monsters explode. Hinoka and Atori witnessed the explosion and, realizing Ayaka was at the location, Hinoka headed there, hoping he wasn't too late. However, when he found her, he discovered she was unconscious. When she managed to open her eyes, he asked her to use her magic, hoping they could prevent Weekend from eliminating the human souls. As he fainted from exhaustion, an enemy began attacking Ayaka, but she awakened Evermillion's power and instantly burned the enemy. Before Weekend could react, Ayaka knocked her to the ground and demanded she hand over the bomb switch. However, the lunatic revealed that she had already detonated the bomb. At that moment, a magic circle activated within the dimension, and an explosion occurred. Watching the explosion spread throughout the dimension, Hinoka noticed that all the human souls were being destroyed, and the shock began to affect his mind. Weekend started saying that he was responsible for the destruction and ordered Hinoka to release his seal, provoking the release of his inner fury and awakening his divine power. When he activated his ultimate spell, Ayaka began running towards him, but his magic suddenly disappeared, and he collapsed from exhaustion. When he woke up in a new dimension, Evermillion started questioning why he didn't accept that he was just an ugly, weak loser and kept trying. She told him that he was inside her barrier and that she would help restore the entire city in exchange for his life. With Ayaka's life already tied to his, Hinoka realized she would die if his life were taken, but he thought restoring the city would be a worthy sacrifice. He then pleaded for Evermillion to grant him her power. Colorful flowers surrounded him and began to spread throughout the church, reversing the flow of time and extending across the city, returning the buildings to their previous state. Fearing that Hinoka would lose all his strength, Ayaka tried to tell him to stop the magic, but he began to say that he had already made the deal and traded their lives for the city. However, Ayaka thought their lives were worth the sacrifice, but asked Evermillion to take her own life instead, saying she was willing to fulfill the promise she had already made. At that moment, her magic disappeared, and she collapsed on the ground. When Hinoka tried to help her, Weekend stabbed him in the back and began saying that he had ruined all her plans and it would be better for him to remain an idiot in the afterlife. However, Hinoka managed to pull out the knife and pushed Weekend to the ground, but when trying to finish her off, he ended up stabbing the ground instead, deciding to spare her life. He began to say that he would always be weak and useless, but he would rather sacrifice his life for everyone else. He lost all his strength and collapsed on the ground. Nonetheless, Weekend ordered her assistant to heal her wounds, saying she would return with a better plan to steal his powers for herself. After the assistant healed him, they began to leave, but a tour hid out of sight. At that moment, Weekend realized Cronwar was waiting outside and decided to take her away. When a tour entered the church, Hinoka revealed that Ayaka had stopped breathing, but Mikui discovered that human souls were beginning to return to the real world. As he spoke through a tour's puppet, he told Hinoka that the human souls had been saved, but Hinoka was sad to have lost the only person he cared about. After Miki learned everything that had happened, he revealed that Ayaka couldn't have traded her life for his and suggested they cast a revival spell to bring her back. As Hinoka started the spell, Miki revealed that the only chance to revive her would be by kissing her.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
To help him steady himself, Mikui decided to reveal that Ayaka had actually broken the contract with him and that he could revive her by restoring the contract that bound their lives together. This was the contract that granted her unlimited power with his magic, but he needed to kiss her to help her awaken.
No!
Meanwhile, in the city, Cronwar decided to challenge Weekend to a fight, but in an instant, she was beaten and even trapped under a spell. As Cronwar told her that her plan was terrible, Weekend revealed that she would never have won the battle while Hinoka's and Ayaka's lives were bound to each other. At that moment, Kazan arrived, but when Weekend started wondering how she had managed to escape from prison, Kazan revealed that she had recovered all her magic in a few hours, but decided to stay out of the fight. When she demanded that Cronwar hand over Menace, Cronwar decided to challenge her to a battle. Using Weekend as a springboard, she began to descend with her claws, but Kazan punched her ugly face and continued to beat her until she was exhausted. In Evermillion's dimension, Hinoka discovered that Ayaka had asked the White Princess to release her contract if Hinoka's life was in danger and offered to sacrifice her own magic for him. This was Ayaka's vow to Evermillion, but the White Princess revealed that Hinoka's magic had restored the city, even without her help, successfully canceling the agreement to take his life. When Hinoka woke up, he realized Ayaka was still alive and was happy to see her again. A few days later, As they began to return to school, Ayaka revealed that her magic was starting to regenerate, and Hanoko was glad to have her back, as he couldn't imagine living without her. However, the group of mental idiots was back for Hanoka, as the activation of the catastrophic level magic had also turned him into a real man, and they set out to get the white cream inside him. But while Ayaka held them off, she revealed that she was the only one who could indulge in his delicious white cream. Click the like button if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks for watching, and see you next time, my dear legends.